Hundreds of residents in the picturesque English town of Crowborough marched through the streets on Sunday to protest plans to house 600 migrants at a nearby military training camp.
Crowborough's got a rich history of welcoming people. Afghan families after the war were housed in the Crowborough army camp. To support them, they were welcome. Ukrainian families were welcome. This is a genuine concern about 600 unvetted, unverified men coming here with no idea of where they're from, what they've done, what their agenda is, being placed in our community.
Right then, buckle up folks, because today's story isn't just a local kerfluffle, it's a full-blown community showdown with national implications. In the quiet, postcard-perfect town of Crowborough, where the wildest excitement is usually a Saturday car boot sale, residents are now marching the streets like it's a scene out of a political drama. Why? Because the government wants to house 600 migrants at a nearby military training camp. And let's just say, the locals are not exactly rolling out the welcome mat. Crowborough, peaceful, green, proper British countryside charm, suddenly found itself at the centre of an unexpectedly fiery debate. Over the weekend, hundreds of residents marched through the streets in a rare display of unified frustration. And in proper British fashion, they didn't just chant, they organised. Every protester carried a number symbolising the migrants they believe they're being forced to accommodate. A visual message, bold as brass, signalling, "Look here, Westminster, we're not having it." Now, let's be clear, this isn't just about one sleepy town throwing a tantrum. This story taps into a much bigger national tension brewing across the UK. Communities everywhere have been grappling with the steady rise of small boat arrivals across the English Channel. And while the government keeps promising full security, healthcare and all the trimmings, residents in Crowborough are saying, "Mate, that's all well and good on paper, but what about the pressure on our services, our schools, our streets and our safety?" They're heart of their worry. The migrants expected to be housed at the military camp are believed to be unvetted, or at least not fully verified. And in a town of around 20,000, dropping in 500 to 600 strangers overnight feels less like help and more like a demographic earthquake. One lifelong resident put it bluntly, "We welcomed Afghan families, we welcomed Ukrainians. That was different. They came through proper checks. But 600 men with no idea of who they are or what they've done, that's just wrong." And look, whether you agree or not, you can't deny the blunt honesty of British small-town commentary. Another protester said, with that classic British mix of politeness and passive aggression, that housing these individuals in a small community with limited resources is a recipe for utter chaos. And honestly, one can almost hear the entire town chiming in with a collective, "Too right." And to be fair to them, this isn't their first rodeo. Earlier this year, similar protests broke out outside migrant housing hotels across the UK. It's becoming part of a bigger pattern. Residents pushing back at what they see as rushed government decisions made miles away by people who've never set foot in their town. You know the type, the "we know what's best for you" brigade, sitting comfortably in London while villages and small towns deal with the consequences. Residents are insisting they're not heartless, they've welcomed refugees before, they're simply fed up with what they call unplanned social engineering. Their message to officials is loud, clear, and delivered in classic British tone. Do your job properly, ask us first, and stop treating small towns like dumping grounds. Now, whether you think these concerns are valid, exaggerated, or somewhere in between, one thing is certain. The government is now under pressure to explain why Crowborough was chosen, to clarify vetting procedures, and to assure residents they're not being brushed aside. And seeing how immigration has already become one of Britain's most divisive issues of the decade, it's safe to say this little Sussex town has just become ground zero for a much bigger political storm. So, there you have it. From peaceful countryside to protest central, Crowborough has made its voice heard loud and clear. Will the government listen? Will the plan go ahead? Or will this be another case of local pushback reshaping national policy? Time will tell. If you want to stay ahead of these stories with sharp insight, a dash of humour, and the news that actually matters, make sure you're subscribed. Hit the bell, drop a comment, and let us know, would your town accept 600 new arrivals overnight? This is Global Pulse News, and we're just getting started.